Hello and welcome to everyone attending the webinar today. The purpose of today's webinar is to introduce B2W Software's latest offering within B2W Inform called the B2W Inform Template Library. So some intros as we begin. I'll be your host today. My name is Anthony Salvatore. I am a solutions engineer here at B2W. Prior to joining the sales team, I spent a few years in our client services department as a member of our implementation and training teams. Joining me today is Eliza Holzman. She is the product manager for B2W Inform. Eliza will be managing the questions panel, which is part of the GoToMeeting ribbon that you all should see. So feel free to ask any questions that you may have, and we'll do our best to address those as we proceed. We'll have time at the conclusion of the webinar to go over any questions that you folks might have as well. So just to kind of level set some general information about Inform and how it's being used by our customers. B2W Inform is a software element that, simply put, is a mobile-first enterprise solution for forms and reporting. With B2W Inform, construction companies get timely, accurate information delivered where and when they need it by using highly configurable form templates, which feed custom reports and dashboards along with event-driven alerts. Fast, easy creation of highly configurable form templates has enabled companies to expand data collection, replace inefficient paper-based processes, capture richer content in real time, and connect field and office employees anytime, anywhere, and on any device. So why are we here today? Well, B2W Software now offers a free template library within B2W Inform to help give contractors a head start in developing customized forms for common use cases. So just kind of take a moment and review the list that we have here on screen, and note that the examples included in B2W Inform's template library incorporate proven, best practice content and layouts from construction companies who are currently using B2W Inform. The beauty behind the Inform template library is that companies can use these templates as a starting point to then customize the layout and content specific to their unique business needs. So in other words, companies won't have to start from scratch, allowing them to hit the ground running earlier and faster with their B2W Inform investment. Furthermore, templates can then be tied to things within your Inform database, such as assigning users and permissions, data binding to your B2W operations data, your internal approval process, and perhaps most important, they can feed your customizable alerts, reports, and dashboards. So just one quick ad here. If you are an existing Inform customer and you are interested in receiving any of these templates that you're about to see, please just reach out to your account manager and we'll get you set up with those as soon as possible. All right. So that's it in the realm of an intro and a PowerPoint. So let's go ahead and step out of the PowerPoint presentation here, jump right into the actual software to take a live look. So just as a kind of caveat here, you're looking at the welcome screen for Inform, and I am using a web browser for our review today at Firefox. So keep in mind that Inform is accessible on any web browser and any device. So Inform can be used on an iPad or Android tablet, as well as on a smartphone. And also, Eliza and I were even more excited to announce that her team has been working very hard on creating a new mobile app for B2W Inform in order to support offline mode. Offline mode is huge for software companies, so companies can fill out forms capturing that information without an internet connection, and forms can then be synced with the office when a viable connection does become available, and that mirrors the current flow with B2W mobile app and how that works with the other elements. So let's jump right in. I'm in an environment here that includes the forms that are a part of the initial template library. I'm going to go ahead and click in the forms area, and I'm going to use this button in the right-hand corner here to fill out a form. This is going to bring you to a list of the 12 forms that we've included as part of the initial form templates library. So just to kind of touch on some of these things here, we have a couple of forms within this library that fall under the realm of HR. So we have a disciplinary action form. We have an employee leave request form as well. We have a simple, short equipment inspection form for you to use as a starting point. If you were to evolve into your own equipment inspection documents, we have a nice place for you to begin there. We have a couple of job hazard analysis forms, one portrait and one landscape, just to kind of show you the flexibility as far as the design and the layout of the actual form content. Some safety forms here. We have a near miss form for you. We have an Osha Form 301. We've basically recreated the different sections and different options inside of the formal document provided by Osha, and we've created a simple form that's intuitive and easy to fill out. And what I'm going to show you today is how this form can be used in conjunction with the reports area, and we can actually embed that formal Osha document inside Inform as a report, and we can have the data that we capture feed that required document when needed. So more on that in just a moment here. We have a few different versions of site inspections with photos and signatures, kind of a simple, smaller, and then a more robust, larger starting point for you as well. And then we have the toolbox talk form for more of those kind of daily or weekly safety trainings that you might have on site there. So the way I thought we'd kind of conduct the review today of the Inform Template Library is just to kind of choose a few of these things and take a deeper look, not only to discuss kind of the real world use case as to why we chose to include these forms, but also to kind of take a look at the flexibility and the different components or field options that we provide as well for that ultimate flexibility. So to begin here, I'm going to click on the second form, which is the employee leave request form. And as I pop open this guy here, I just kind of want to mention that many clients are using Inform for these sort of internal and HR type forms, and not just for forms that pertain to the work that's being done in the field. So an employee leave request form like we're showing is one of just several examples of how Inform can help eliminate all of that internal office paperwork that might be piling up. Other examples that Eliza and I have heard, used for HR forms or new hire forms, emergency contact information forms, things like that. We, B2W as a company, use Inform internally today for submitting our expense reports. So a lot of creative uses there. And then to kind of touch on some of the different fields or components here, you'll notice up top that I have some static text or some canned phrases. This might be like a legality statement or something like that. It could just simply include instructions on how to properly and accurately fill out the form in the fields underneath. So just keep that in mind, some good use cases there. You'll notice a drop-down menu or two here on this form as well. This is a perfect example of the ability to data bind to the B2W operations database, or you can build your own drop-down menu options as well. So this is an example of, if I choose, I could very easily have this drop-down menu populate an active list of my current employees within B2W operations. This form includes a couple of date fields, so I can do a simple date, or I can do a date and timestamp in just a click of a button here. We have a notes field as well, so I'm using a laptop or a desktop here. I can use my device's keyboard to physically type, or keep in mind if I'm using a tablet or a smartphone, I can use voice to text or Siri to do my dictation, kind of work smarter, not harder. That's the mindset there. We have a signature component included. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of pick my name, and I'm going to use my mouse and my cursor to physically sign. And when I do that, we can date and timestamp when that signature was taken. We can also include some metadata as far as your longitude, latitude coordinates, some good information to have, inside of your database. Again, if you're using a tablet or a smartphone, you would do that signature using your finger or a stylus right on that device. And then another thing I want to point out is if I come up here to the properties, I had mentioned this during the intro, you will have the ability to set up your own sequential approval process. So we can hard code your approval process. It can be modified by you to match up to your internal hierarchy, so you won't skip a beat there. So that, guys, is the first form that I wanted to show, which is the employee leave request form. I'm going to go ahead and bounce back to the master list here. And the next form that I wanted to take a closer look at was the short equipment inspection example that we're providing. So one of, if not the most common use case for forms, has been some type of equipment inspection document. Now, we understand that each company may perform equipment inspections in a slightly different fashion, which is case in point for using Inform and the template library as a starting point to then personalize the content for your specific business needs. In our example here, you can see we've included a series of checkboxes pertaining to the different inspection points as far as this document is concerned, and then we have a general area for comments or notes about those inspection points. So, other examples, things that Eliza and I have heard over time is for these inspection points, I might want a series of checkboxes for things like pass, fail. Another example is I might want to have a radio button for acceptable versus damaged, things like that. Again, our mindset is going to kind of be like, do what makes sense and what pertains to your internal style of thinking there. We also, if I focus your attention toward another drop-down menu, we have the ability, again, to build your own or to bind to the operations database for employees and equipment and many other options. We also have the ability to leverage auto-populate fields. So for example, if I was binding to my operations database and I brought in a piece of equipment, we can auto-populate linked information like year, make, model, and license plate. Now we're creating efficiencies and cutting down the time it takes to fill out these forms. Photos and signatures, very common to add to pretty much any form here. You'll notice I'm going to go ahead and take a photo since I'm using a laptop. I can go ahead and choose an image file or something that I have stored. Again, if I'm using a tablet or a smartphone, I can take a picture right there on my device. And Eliza will attest, it's worth mentioning, many companies will, be taking photos of the equipment during their inspections, especially for things that are causing an issue. So, the mentality is a little goes a long way with enhanced electronic communication. Let's put this thing in action. So that, guys, is the example of the short equipment inspection form that we've included here. Going back to our master list, the next one that I wanted to touch on is going to be one of our JHAs, or our job hazard analysis. I thought we'd pop open the landscape example here, again, just to kind of give you a flavor for portrait versus landscape as far as the design and the layout. JHAs, JSAs, another prime example of a common form that fits in quite nicely with the flow of B2W Inform. These things can vary in scopes and level of detail that's being captured by each company. So the example that we're providing just has some kind of generic fields here where I can capture the steps involved that led to a potential issue. I can capture some information about what that specific hazard is, and then I can also capture some hazard controls or some ways to help protect employees from exposure to that potential problem going forward. We also have some, auto-populated linked fields as part of this form. We have another area for any notes or any comments here, a very large photo component or section here, and then this form has multiple signatures, the manager or the supervisor, and then the person actually filling out the form. So again, make these things yours. Take the ball, run with it, personalize these things so they're fitting your requirements. Yet again, we're going to bounce back here to the main list, and the one I want to go over next is the fun one here, our Osha Form 301. This is something that has been a common enough ask, or something that we're recreating, that we decided, let's just include this as part of our template library. We've basically recreated the true Osha Form 301 document, and we've placed fields that are easy to access, easy to fill out on your individual devices. So this form is designed to work in conjunction with the reports area by embedding the formal 301 document in the system as a report. But now this form gives field users a simple version to fill out, capturing what they need with ease on any device, and then the details can very easily be added electronically to that report. And I'm going to show you that in just a moment here. So again, just recreating these different fields in different sections. Things like radio buttons and checkboxes, a good time as any to point out and mention alerts. We have alerts and notifications engine inside of B2W Inform based on event-driven alerts. So I might have a simple statement saying if the injury type was a falling object, then I want to notify people inside and outside of my company, be it via text message and email, that something happened as soon as that form is submitted. You can also optionally choose to include an attachment, a PDF file of the form that actually triggered that alert as well. So very powerful alert and notification engine. You can either use it to mirror your internal communication workflows today, or you can simply layer on electronic communication to kind of be more efficient and to enhance some things where necessary inside of your internal business. So a couple of other things we added to this particular Osha form, photos and signatures. So things that may or may not be part of the actual formal document or part of what you folks have internally today, pretty much across the board, many customers are just straight up adding photos and signatures to help enhance their current procedures and easy ways to just capture more valid data here very simply. So do what makes sense again, personalize these, make them yours. But then again, with this Osha form, the mindset is we're capturing simple detail, but we're going to embed that report when we need that formal output, that formal document. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to drag over my personal Inform environment to show you what that end result would look like. So this is an example now of the OSHA 301 injury and illness incident report that I've embedded in the system as a report. I'm using Inform to capture data on that very simple form on my smartphone or my tablet. When I need the requirement, the OSHA required document like you're seeing, we're going to push information from the form, pull it to the individual fields that will map during the embedding of that report so that we have the best of both worlds, something simple and intuitive to fill out, and then also something here that meets that formal requirement. All right, so that is a little bit about the OSHA 301 form here. I'm going to bounce back to the form template library. And there is one more example that I wanted to go over here today, and that is the last guy, the last of the 12 that we're showing. And let me see if I can actually click the right button here. I'm going to bring up now the toolbox talk form. So this is, again, very common use case scenario. Toolbox talk, safety meetings, completing a required number of safety training sessions for a given day or week, becoming a need pretty much across the board for construction companies. So the template library includes a simple toolbox talk like you're seeing that contains a section right here in the middle to actually embed files. So this is an example of I'm actually embedding a PDF file inside of the software very easily. The mindset is I might want to copy this form day over day, week over week, and simply swap out the attachment. So I'm staying current. I'm having a new subject matter each and every time, but I'm keeping a very consistent approach to the layout and the design of that form, so it's very intuitive and it's very easy to use. Keep in mind that I'm embedding a PDF file here. I can embed Word documents, video files, links to websites or videos if I'd like to as well, so we have a lot of options there for you. I have another drop-down menu here. Keep in mind, this probably is a drop-down menu that might not make sense to actually bind to the operations database. So keep in mind, you can create your own custom lists if you choose to. So we can create predefined drop-down menus one time, and we can add them as needed without having to duplicate that redundant data entry each time. We also have the ability to just hard code your own drop-downs. So again, kind of do what's most efficient for you folks. And then the mindset here is I'm signing off that yes, I have reviewed that document, that information, that attachment. I've attended the safety meeting today. I'm moving on. So again, this is our interpretation of a nice starting point for that safety meeting or that toolbox talk. So those are the different options, the different details that I wanted to show today. Keep in mind that we will be continuously adding templates over time as it makes sense for the greater good here. You've heard me say several times now throughout this presentation how companies can use the forms in the template library to then move forward, ultimately personalizing these things and building your own. So what I thought we'd do here is I thought I would go back into my Inform environment, and I thought I would show you what that looks like. I have actually, in my form environment, I've brought over the toolbox talk from the template library, and I've already made some modifications to it. So let's take a look at what it would take to modify or build your own based on the template detail that we give you to start. I'm going to go ahead and click on my B2W toolbox talk example here. And now you'll notice this is the template creation or the form editing page that we have inside of B2W Inform. We have a left-hand palette that has different components or different field options on the left. We then have a graph paper style view over here that is your canvas, where you're going to be doing the design building, the moving things around, and the kind of the aesthetics of your final result here. So the palette on the left has a wealth of component or field options, headers and subheaders. text boxes here, date or date and timestamps, as we mentioned. Again, I can embed links to URLs or websites, drop-down components, radio buttons and checkboxes. These are the most common that are going to be tied to alerts and notifications inside of B2W Inform. And then things that we've pointed out that we include inside of various forms: signatures, media uploads, file uploads. Might want to embed an image or embed an actual video file, things like that. So again, there's a wealth of details and a wealth of information here for you to choose from on that palette. And then you may have already noticed that I've made some good changes already and some tweaks right here to the header section of my specific Toolbox Talk form example. So right off the bat, I've added another component or field for business unit because I want my folks to fill out the division that is actually filling out this form. I also want the foreman or supervisor to record his or her name so I know who is kind of administering that particular training session on that day. And then you'll notice too that I've simply copied the form and added a different attachment, not the previous OSHA. This is now a different OSHA attachment for hard hat and overhead safety information. If I pop open the ellipsis here, it's that easy. All I would need to do is click in this field here, and I can use my Windows Explorer directory, or I can browse out to my network or my hard drive, bring in whatever electronic document I might need here. Again, not just PDF file attachments. So very easy to copy this form day over day to make sure that the subject matter is there, but again, keeping that true format and that layout consistent so it's easy to use and it's intuitive for the folks in the field. Last thing I did here was I did just change the color of the text and using a slightly different font for my canned phrase. So, simple or more elaborate changes, it's completely up to you. And I can continue on if I'd like to as well. For example, I can come down here and I can add another page, and that's going to open up another graph paper style piece of canvas here for me. And now all I would need to do from the palette is select a a field option that I like to bring over, a component, and all I'm doing is click, dragging, and dropping. So I might want to click on my drop-down menu component, and I get some nice lines to help me make sure that my spacing is correct, that I'm plotting things where they need to be. When I release that particular field, it's going to now be plotted on my graph paper. I can expand it, make it wider, make it larger, that sort of thing. If I click on this component itself, you'll notice that it's going to illuminate the formatting toolbar that we have up top here, where I can do things like changing the text. I can change the font size, bold, italicize, underline, things like that. Do I or don't I want to show the actual formal label for that field? The big one that I always like to point out is the ability to straight up require fields. So I may very well want 4, 5, 6 different fields on this form to be a core requirement. You can't submit the form until I've filled out an X amount of required fields. Very easily done to help make sure the completeness and the validity of the form are where they need to be before they're actually formally submitted for review. And then if I come back to this component or this field here, I can click on the ellipsis to bring up the details, in this case, the properties for the drop-down menu component. So now I can do simple things like, what is the label of this field? So I might say, in this case, I'm going to add job name, just to kind of walk through something simple here today. I want this field to be a drop-down of my active projects inside of B2W operations. I can choose to allow for a single selection or multiple selections, so we have some flexibility there for you. And now I have some options as far as how do I actually populate my drop-down menu within this particular field. I can straight up hard code and manually key in any drop-down menu options I want that might be specific to this particular form. I can build one time a custom list, and I can pull in those predefined drop-down menus as necessary, so I don't have to continue to do that redundant data entry as we mentioned before. But what we'll do today is we'll actually bind this drop-down menu component to our operations database. So if I were to click this radio button here and pop open the details, all I'm doing is selecting the data source. In this case, I'm going to choose my B2W operations database, and then I'm choosing the record type here. You can see that we have a lot of good record types. Am I pulling from an employee list, an equipment list, things like that? I'm actually going to pull in from an active list of my jobs, as I mentioned, and then I'm just straight up choosing the field as part of that record inside of B2W operations that I want to display. So do I want the job number? Do I want the display name here? I'm going to go ahead and choose the display name, and then my job is done. Just like that, I've added a page, I've added a component with rich text formatting, and now I have a pre-populated drop-down menu for ease of use and intuition out there in the field. So again, guys, the mindset is that we are providing companies with a quick, simple, and flexible way to personalize these forms so you can start taking advantage of the Inform software much faster than if you were just simply starting from scratch. All right. So that concludes the overview, guys, of what is available within B2W's new Inform Template Library. I'm going to go ahead and bring back up the PowerPoint here. We will open this up for any questions. We're hope that we're as excited as that you folks are excited as we are, rather, about this new inclusion that will provide companies with an assortment of commonly used forms, which can easily be customized in order to fit your unique business needs. This is something that Eliza and her team are going to continue to research and have those discussions with our current customers. So again, we do fully anticipate that list to grow over time. While we wait for any questions that may be coming in, just a friendly reminder to keep a lookout for any of our for our next B2W webinar on May 23rd, which is entitled Modeling a Preventative Maintenance Program Inside of B2W Maintain. So we're excited to show you around our preventative maintenance engine in about a month here. And then it's just worth mentioning, I'd like to thank everyone. Again, thank you very much for attending today's webinar. As always, feel free to call our sales department, and we're more than happy to answer any questions that you folks may have. Any customers listening in can call our support department at any time as well. Please note, too, that an email will be sent out, including a copy of this recorded session to all attendees in case you folks didn't have the chance to join today. Oh, it does look like we do have a question that came in. The question is, when will offline mode for B2W Inform be available? That is a great question. I don't have a specific date on the anticipated release of offline mode. Last I heard, we were just a few short weeks away. So I would say within the next 2 or 3 weeks, we should have something posted generally available for download. Great question. All right, I believe that's it for questions, guys. Again, thank you all for attending. Keep a lookout for future B2W webinars, and have a great day, everyone.